It is now time to review AEW All Out 2025, which took place on September 20th, 2025, over there in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, at the old Scotiabank Centre. It was a good show. I enjoyed it for the most part. There's not much. There aren't many matches. There aren't many matches that happened on this card where I was pulling my hair out, or that I felt miserable, or on the other hand that I was rubbing my hands together going, oh boy, can't wait to come bury the shit out of this one. No, it was fine. It was a good show. Don't get me wrong. Was it a great show? No. Was it a mid show? No, either. It was good. Just a good, solid moment of entertainment that has occurred here once again, offered by professional wrestling outfit All Elite Wrestling. I don't know what else to say. It's a show, I think, that is ultimately nondescript in a such that I think, barring maybe one real surprising result, because I do think that there's one match that had a bit of a shocking result that I don't think people were necessarily expecting. It wasn't exactly a newsworthy, it wasn't exactly a big newsworthy event. And I'm saying this despite the fact that there were some terrific matches and some nice surprises nonetheless. So, it's like, am I sort of, what's going on here exactly? Am I just complaining for the sake of complaining? Am I trying to mask some kind of disappointment? No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm disappointed. I expected this to be a good show, and the matches that delivered. The whole back half. There I am going into some kind of weird accent transition. What was that even? Back half? I don't know. Am I suddenly like some kind of Southern U.S. farmer or whatever? Back half. I don't know what I was doing. Blame it on me not drinking coffee in the morning anymore. How about that? Let's just blame that. Why don't we blame my medical condition on that happening, right? That prevents me from enjoying the great, robust flavors and aromas of coffee every day anymore. That's what that is all about. Anyway, the back half of the show really delivered. I mean, look, there'll be nothing like getting down to it, starting to break everything down, getting into the nitty gritty, but we can absolutely start by checking in on attendance. Our boy WrestleTix, at the moment that I am recording this on Sunday, the 21st, of course. And no, I don't think it's the first day of fall. I think the first day of fall in 2025 is on the 22nd. I believe so. So, well, maybe by the time you're listening to this, it will be fall, because happy fall, everyone. Good tidings to all of the chilly weather lovers out there. We are one. But as I'm recording this on the 21st, the WrestleTix was able to come up with the final count for the show, and according to them, 12,222 tickets were distributed. Almost sounds like a working number, but WrestleTix doesn't work. I mean, doesn't do works. No, it's not a worker, is what I'm trying to say. So that's a good attendance. That's good. I think they had set this up for a little bigger. It's not a sellout from the full capacity of the building, but I think we were very close to selling out the. We were very close to selling out the amount of tickets that was, or the amount of, excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of tickets that were made available. The setup, Jesus Christ. Okay, they're finally, okay. Boy, this just might be a rough one, folks. Holy smokes. And the setup, look, I just checked, 12,646. So we were very, very close to the intended setup, and so that's like, it's a good gate. It's good attendance. I don't think it's going to be like a high revenue event. It's 12,000 people, and in Canadian dollars, it's not exactly we're not exactly tearing the house down as far as income, but it's a good, the place looked packed, it felt packed. Although I will say, this Toronto audience, I don't know if they were into it the whole way. I don't know. It was it was a bit of a strange audience. I think there were matches here where the crowd, like particularly the main event. And I have a theory about that, and might as well just, without getting into the main event. I don't know exactly what this crowd was waiting for, because the main event was tremendous. I thought it was an excellent match, and it really was great. And everyone, both guys, both Hangman and Fletcher, but again, I'll break it down in a few, but both of these guys were absolutely delivering a high caliber match to cap off the show. And I don't know what that audience was waiting for. Like, they should have just given more. I don't know. Like, again, I don't know what they were waiting for. I don't know what they were expecting. And then when I say I don't know what they were waiting for, has me thinking, maybe they were waiting for something to happen. Someone to pop in, some interference, some shenanigans that unfortunately permeate and happen quite a bit in pro wrestling, and particularly in main events, where you have all these run-ins and all these people showing up, not unlike, let's say, what happened at All In, where I know, tons of people online, a lot of people around me were like, this is great, this was awesome, having everyone and their mother running in to take part in interfering in this match. And I ultimately thought it took away from it, and I was like, this is disappointing. I didn't hate the match, don't get me wrong, but it did knock it down quite a few pegs for me. And I'm watching that main event last night, and I'm just like, this is terrific, this is great, and it's a straight up one-on-one match, clean finish, and I was super into it. But are we at a point right now where, and this is not necessarily just AEW's fault, this is like wrestling in general over the past couple of years, are we at a point now where these main event angles are expected to contain, story elements where people show up, there's surprises, there's run-ins, and then ultimately that's what the audience waits. Look, when I still watch WWE and I'd review, let's say, bloodline matches. Well, one of the things that when Roman was on top, let's be clear. I haven't. We're not getting into that. We don't go any deeper, Warren. You don't need to. But like, especially when Roman was on top, you could feel that the crowd, the audience, was just waiting for something to happen. They were kind of the match was secondary to the run-ins, the Usos showing up and Solo Sikoa, and then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and it would all all of this match structure wouldn't really matter. It's the run-ins, like the minute there was the ref bump, then people go, oh, here we go, and then the crowd would get loud. Now, I'm not saying that, and I thought that WWE did this egregiously, and I thought ended up, really, really harming their main events, and, didn't harm it in the eyes of their fans, which is all that matters, really, because people really liked it, and I thought it stunk. But it's an effect, nonetheless, that I feel is permeated through wrestling, and I also think that AEW has dipped its toes into that quite a bit. I mean, look at the last pay-per-view. Look at the MJF Hangman Page match that we got, where remember that finish that was just full of twists and turns, and you're like, why did we need this? Why couldn't we have just had the straight up thing, or if you really want to have Max, do some cheap heel bullshit that'll blow up in his face, which I'm for, by the way. Well, you can do it in much less convoluted, complex, overwhelming stuff that just takes you away from the match. That just changes the complete, that invades the match to a point where everything that happened before has no precedent because you kind of just hit a reset button here. That was the issue with the Bloodline matches, is that whatever happened in the match previous doesn't matter because it's from this point on that everything matters. Everything you built beforehand is just like, it's filler. It's nothing. It's just stuff happening and who gives a shit. So I'm wondering if audiences have not been conditioned at this point to just listen to, watch a wrestling main event and expect the shenanigans and don't get into it because the expectation, as conscious or unconscious as it may be, is that something is going to happen that will require me, that will get me excited. So in the meantime, yeah, you guys are doing wrestling, isn't that nice? But when are the big surprises going to happen? And that when it doesn't happen, then it's like it's like the crowd is like, oh, the match is over and it was a clean finish. And that I think is an indictment, though, that a clean finish has people going, oh, clap, 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 as opposed to fuck yeah. I think that's an indictment as to how wrestling audiences in the United States, anyway, Canada, have been trained. They've been trained to react when the interferences happen, but then when you have a straight, clean finish, people are like, oh, they're surprised and they don't know quite what to do. When the clean finish should be what the majority of the time you're getting. It should, most of the time, that's what it should be. Like the number of people I saw, in my circles who were like, who were surprised at Chris Statlander's winning. Like, whoa, what? And yet I'm like, sure, like isn't this how we should be doing it? When we're coming to our pushed commodities, our champions, the people that we want to throw our weight behind, shouldn't we be setting them up to be truly successful and allow them to have a moment where they're like, yes, there's no question here. This person is the champion. They won straight down the middle. There was no nonsense. We weren't goofing around. This is your champion. And we're talking for babyface champions, of course. Heel champions is that's a whole other kettle. But you see what I mean? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? It's like, why is it that the clean finish is something that people go, oh, and don't quite know what to do with that? And that kind of bothers me. And look, I mean, and I remember a time in AEW when the clean finish was the standard. When that was the thing that would happen more often than not. And when there'd be interference, then you'd have people wagging their finger. You got people putting their hands on their hips, going, doing one of those. But now I really feel it's the opposite. And I feel like that Toronto crowd, particularly for the main event, was waiting for something to happen, despite being told there will be no interferences. Now, you can apply wrestling logic and say, oh, they're putting so much emphasis on no interference from the Don Callis family, and that then something else is going to happen, right? And that's how poisoned, I guess, our wrestler brains have become, where we're like, even when we're told a thing, we're expecting the thing that we're being told to be a device for the work, a device for the surprise to happen. It's like I saw theories like, oh, Chris Jericho's going to interfere. Sure, okay, But why? And don't get me wrong, I don't want to make something super clear just in case it's getting muddied in all these words that are pouring out of my mouth. I legitimately believe that this is the best outcome of a clean finish. I loved it. I love this match. I love how it ended. Anything else would have been weird. I am not calling for more interferences and whatnot to make the crowd happy. I think I think wrestling audience have to relearn the value of a good, clean, straight up one-on-one wrestling match with no gimmicks or nothing. Like outside of the non-interference gimmick, which really should not be the gimmick. I talked about this on the preview. You shouldn't be like the gimmick for the main event was no interference. That should be on for all of your matches. You know what I mean? Like that should be the baseline for every match. All interference is banned. Otherwise, you're like always opening the door to that storytelling device, and you're training your audience you're training your audience then to think that, oh well, when these, you know, if you're telling me that there's not going to be any interference in this match, that means everything else is fair game, which it implicitly is. But you're telling them that. You're basically building to the fact that, look, we will only guarantee a clean finish when we put it in the gimmick. When we finagle the match, the stipulations of the match to guarantee you a clean finish. Other than that, who knows what will happen in AEW? Anything can happen in AEW. Anyway, enough jibber jabber. I feel like I've jumped through some talking point hoops. But ultimately the point is that I didn't think this was necessarily a great crowd. I think it was a crowd that unfortunately was lost at some point. I think they were in it, but I think that the card lost the audience at some point. So it's not just like Toronto crowd was bad. No, I think that the Toronto crowd was not bad. I think they legitimately were lost at some point, but they never really got back into it. Like for some exceptions aside, but they never fully got reinvested in it. Anyway, let's start talking about it. And since I don't have like any I don't think there's any match that has a main talking point that I feel has to supersede everything else. Like sometimes I do. I think we're just gonna go. We're just gonna go through the card from the very top to the bottom. I think that's just like I typically do. We'll just start with the main event. Hangman Adam Page retaining the AEW Men's World Championship against Kyle Fletcher. Look, I started talking about it a little bit here. I thought this was great. I thought I thought this was an excellent pro wrestling match from these two guys who delivered the kind of match that I thought they were going to expect. That I expected them to do. How about that? You know, it's like I always say, the Hangman can't have bad matches. He just can't. Adam Page does not have bad matches. Kyle Fletcher, someone. I think it's DJ Convoy, right? On Blue Sky wrote something to the effect that what's great about Kyle Fletcher when he wrestles is that he looks hungry. Like he's always like sinking his teeth, biting and tearing apart whatever he's involved in, because he understands what his ascension is about. Like he understands his mandate right now, which is you are not a top guy yet, but Jesus Christ, you're close. And the day that we push you to be a top guy is going to be extraordinary. So he knows he's building up this backlog, this resume, this mystique about him, I guess. You know, pick your poison on that one. And he's building it to the point where, to a point where eventually he's going to be an undeniable force in pro wrestling. And so here, what he's doing is jumping into these matches, and he's hungry to prove himself. He's hungry for these matches, for these big opportunities. I thought he handled this extraordinarily well. Am I surprised? No. I just want to point it out that he handled it extraordinarily well for a guy at 26 years old, who is on the cusp of greatness, who's in his first main event for a world championship on pay-per-view. I think he handled himself exquisitely. And again, I'm not surprised, because he's been in high pressure situations before, maybe never up to this level, but he was flawless. I don't know what the problem is. He was flawless. And Hangman was flawless as well. But like I said, like the difference between Hangman and Fletcher is that we've had the Hangman World Championship run, and we've had the Hangman be a top guy in this company for a while now. So we've come to expect this out of Adam Page, which is, great matches, because that's what he does for a living. He cannot have anything beneath a great match. Kyle Fletcher still has that he still needs to win over the audience on that front. And I personally think he did. I thought he wrestled an extremely smart, compelling match. The whole story, surrounding the neck. And they went over 30 minutes on this one. And I thought they were going to do the really bold thing and go time, right? Because here's the unfortunate thing. Here's the one thing. One of my few quibbles about the show. I felt that AEW, aka Tony Khan, wanted to let this match go longer, or long anyway, because he wanted to cut into WrestlePalooza as much as possible. Now, I am all for the competitive nature of, two promotions jockeying for whatever, for mind share. There you go. That's what I was for mind share, and ultimately paying ticket buyers and so on and so forth. But when these little wars get so petty that then it impacts the matches, or what the customer experience, that's when I have an issue with. Like, I had an issue with AEW announcing 2 weeks before the show that it was going to be an afternoon show. I'm like, okay, that fucking sucks. That's, it's fine if you're from Toronto and I'm sure many people were like, I don't really care. But I'm sure people made plans for the tickets. Maybe people, who worked the weekends took they were like, I'll take Saturday evening off, maybe work a shift on, Saturday during the day. And then 2 weeks before, it's like, oh, no, you got to come in the afternoon. They're like, God damn it. People traveling, I don't know. Like, maybe that's the kind of thing that ultimately impacts the fan experience. And those are things I can't get behind. And if you're deliberately having long matches to really cut into the other guys who are counter programming you right now, I'm like, did we really have to do this? Now, maybe not. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But look, once is not a thing. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times is a pattern, right? So let's just keep an eye on it together, shall we? Maybe I'm reading too much into this. And eventually, this will never happen again. And we'll just move on with our lives. Maybe, I don't know. It could be. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe they just really wanted to run a 30+ minute match. Because when they called the 30-minute time stamp, right? When Justin Roberts called 30 minutes, which is something that AEW does not do consistently, calling time cues. New Japan, they do that. New Japan calls the time cues. You have the announcer pop in and, say 10 minutes in, it's like time, 10 minutes have passed. And then we'll know how, that's consistent. And typically AEW doesn't do that. So when they do call the time stamps, then it's like, oh, then something is going to happen. And this suddenly truly becomes part of the storytelling. So I was thinking, do you think they're going time? Do you really think they're going to go 60 minutes deep? Which would be a weird message to send. Because listen, the story of this match has been Kyle Fletcher is not ready for this spot, right? That has been the story of this entire feud. Hangman just telling Kyle, look, you're young, you're hungry, but you're not ready. And Kyle saying, eat shit, dude, farmer, cowboy. I am here and I'm ready to carry this company on my back. I am ready for this. So that was the nitty gritty of the whole, of the whole thing. So I feel it would have been strange to have Hangman and Fletcher go like 60 minutes if Kyle is not ready, right? I think 30 minutes of a well-executed pro wrestling match that maybe to a degree the Hangman was overconfident in, maybe to a slight degree, because maybe he wasn't ready for how much Kyle would be able to work the neck, and he really had to struggle and fight out of it, right? Maybe that could be a thing. But 60 minutes would have been too long, and I think it would have been really weird considering the story that we're trying to tell. Now, or the outcome of the story would have been, hell yeah, Kyle Fletcher is ready for the big time, and here's your new top guy, which again would have been strange. I think I'm very much a proponent of Kyle having a good, solid TNT title run. Like the TNT title already feels bigger around his waist, so I'm ready for him to have a good run with it. But you can feel like it's part of an ascension. So the duration didn't bother me. Going over 30 with Kyle's first main event, it didn't bother me. Like part of the tale they were telling in the match is that Kyle was wrestling a smart fight. He was wrestling a smart match and was able to persist that long because he knew exactly, he did his research and get into the head of Hangman and was able to counter and work the neck. And Don Callis on commentary added a lot on that level as well. And this is a hard hitter, right? This was a really good, hard-hitting, physical match. They're throwing power bomb after power bomb and then Liger bombs and on each other like crazy. Hangman is doing Kenny Omega tributes. Kyle Fletcher's kicking out of all sorts of shit. I loved the finishing sequence, or at least towards the end, where Kyle is he's doing all these great counters to the buckshot, like just grabbing the arm and countering into a brain buster, for instance, and Hangman has to do the avalanche deadeye to get the win. It was a fantastic physical match. No, unnecessary interference. No, no tools and objects and stuff used right and left. No, this was meat and potatoes wrestling is what it was. I really did enjoy it. I thought both guys looked great. If you still have doubts as to whether or not Kyle Fletcher is going to be a top guy in this business, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I don't know what to tell you. You're either the worst. You're either the worst judge of talent in the history of mankind, or you're just bad faith, or both. Which is the worst combination when you think about it. I gave this match 4.5 stars. Yes, definitely worth your while. Absolutely worth your while. It's a very good match with a lovely finish. Avalanche Deadeye and the buckshot. I think I just said Avalanche Deadeye for the win. No, it was an Avalanche Deadeye to really like weaken Kyle, and it's the buckshot that got the job done. And like I mentioned just earlier, I really don't know what the crowd wanted out of this match. I don't know why they weren't more into it, why they weren't giving more to these two guys who are having just like a great wrestling match. Just a great wrestling match. I don't know. All right, next, let's talk about the AEW World Tag Team Championship ladder match where Brodido successfully retained their titles against the Young Bucks, Jet Speed, and the Don Callis duo of Hechicero and Josh Alexander. I don't have many thoughts on this. I am part of the group of people who don't get excited about ladder matches anymore, who don't really enjoy ladder matches anymore. I get bored. My eyes here in this match just glazed over at some point. I feel like I've seen every possible configuration of ladder match that possible, imaginable by humankind until the ladders become like, automatons and walk around the ring until the technology evolves. I don't know. And you might be here sitting, standing, running, walking, swimming while listening to this, and you're saying, Warren, you're nuts. This was awesome. And I mean, if this was, within the first 10 ladder matches I've ever seen, I'd probably be hopping up and down on my seat and screaming and going, yeah, this was absolutely phenomenal. But I'm sorry, folks. Like, if you were expecting me to sit here and sing the praises of this match, I'm not your guy. Because I'm like, all right. Look, the moonsault, the Bandito moonsault with the ladder was one of the wildest fucking things I have ever seen in my life, ever. That was absolutely insane. Like, this man is, look, he's, I sometimes say it, right? So, wrestlers are not like us. Well, this man is not like most wrestlers either. So where does that leave him? I don't know. I don't know. I've literally seen this match dozens of times. Dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I don't know. And I know it's, there's a few of us out there who can't do it. And maybe it's my own fault for watching too much wrestling, or maybe the problem is a little more systemic and there are too many ladder matches out there. The creation of the ladder match was one of the coolest and also worst things that ever happened in pro wrestling, because I have seen so many of them since, and I have seen great ladder matches. I've seen terrible ladder matches. I have seen ladder matches that have left people broken and injured. And that's always the risk you run now in 2025, is to have these ladder matches happen. And then it's to book these ladder matches. And then everyone in the match, because they know about the history of ladder matches themselves, they're wrestlers. They know what's up. They want to do cool shit, because otherwise people are just not going to remember them. People are just not going to remember the match. And there's a bunch of spots in this match that I've already forgotten that, because I didn't write down most of them, because look, my first note here is my eyes are glazed over. I have literally seen this match dozens of times. That's in my notebook right here. But I don't remember. Okay, what are the spot? The other spot, other than the Bandito ladder thing that I remember, is the Ultimo weapon that Mike Bailey did off of the ladder onto another perpendicular ladder. I think it was on Hechicero. It doesn't matter. See, I don't remember. And so he does that, and he sort of whiffs it, kinda, he lands very close to Hechicero's head with his fucking double knees, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And the other spot is Brody doing a tombstone on the ladder, and the ladder is clearly gimmicked. It's one of these fiberglass, ladders that WWE uses. With the way it's snapped, you could see it. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And the thing that I hate the most, and this is the reason why let me retract that. I believe it's the reason why I don't like ladder matches anymore. I believe the reason is because the psychology is completely fucked now. Like completely and utterly fucked. You are in a match where you have to unhook the belts, right? You have to unhook the belts. You have to climb a ladder and unhook the belts to win. And everyone's climbing the fucking ladders, but then they climb the ladders and then they look up at the belts, look down at a guy, and they're like, I'm going to do something cool on the guy down here who clearly will never have enough time to run up the ladder to keep me from unhooking the fucking belts. And Danielson, during this match, God bless him, Bryan Danielson on commentary was screaming out at somebody, I can't remember to who, or he's like, no, don't do the thing, focus on the belts. And I'm like, even Bryan Danielson is sitting at commentary telling us explicitly the psychology is fucked. It doesn't make sense. The American Dragon, one of the greatest pro wrestlers to have ever done it, sitting at commentary, telling us, the audience, explicitly, as someone is climbing the ladder and is looking down to do a cool thing. I think it was Mike Bailey before he did the Ultimo Weapon gimmick. I don't quite remember, but Danielson screaming, no, go for the belts. What are you doing? Correct. That is the correct answer. I don't even know. If I rate the match, I'm going to rate it unfairly. But what am I supposed? And I don't even know. Objectively, everyone worked hard. The match was not bad. I can't sit here and give it a 2, because that's preposterous. But analytically speaking, I can't sit here and go, masterful, wonderful stuff. Memorable. And that's the thing here that has also happened when it comes to taking these huge, dangerous bumps in pro wrestling. Look, we all remember Mick Foley and the Hell in a Cell bump, right? But do we remember the Kevin Owens one? No, but nonetheless, Kevin Owens had a huge fucking Hell in a Cell bump. Don't remember that one, don't. Yeah, that's not the one that comes up in highlight reels or anything. They're just part and parcel now. No one remembers them. You do it on the moment to get the pop, but then after that, they all mush together. It's all because there's so many of them. There's so many of them that they're not even meaningful anymore. And these guys did some pretty hellacious stuff. That's why I'm saying I can't throw this match out and say boo. What is it? 3.5, 3 3/4? I don't know. Is that? And I know it's low because you're probably listening to this and oh, fuck you, Warren Hayes. 3.5. I mean, it's a good match. 3.5 is a good rating. It's a good match. It's a very good match. 3 3/4? I'm not going 4 with it. I'm not going 4. I'm not going 4 on something that is just that is redundant and repetitive that we've seen so many times. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I almost would have preferred. What would be fun? Here's something that would be fun. It's a ladder match, but there's only one fucking ladder. There's only one goddamn ladder that you can use. Then everyone has to stick to some fundamentals here. Everyone has to stick to the same kind of strategy towards winning a match. I have to fight to win, as opposed to I have to, set up fucking structures like goddamn Tinker Toys and then do a cool move off of them. Moving on, Chris Statlander defeated Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, and Tekla to become the new AEW Women's World Champion. And first and foremost, I thought this match was a ton of fun. I'm going to tell you, as much as I don't like four ways, particularly for championships, okay, this was this is the best possible execution of a four-way you can do. And it's based on two things. The first thing is that it felt chaotic. It felt like the pace of this match, I thought, was excellent. And we didn't fall into the trope of, all four women, start slugging at each other, then two get tossed out, and then two women fight for a while, then one of them runs in, throws the other one out, then she disappears for like 2 minutes so that these two can fight, and then the other one who hasn't been in the match really throws out that first wrestler out and tosses her out, and then those two fight for a while. We avoided that trope of having multiple singles matches within this one match, which should be a multi-person match, if that makes sense. For the majority of this match, you've got 3 to 4 women in the ring at the same time. And they were wrestling. This match was put together like with that in mind. So they're always doing stuff. They're always going after each other. They're always like, beating each other up and hitting moves, breaking things up. Like, the pace of this match was really good and really broke from your typical structure for these multi-person matches. And that I thought all 4 women worked their asses off in this match. It was really, really tremendous. And you know what? You were still able to get like little moments where Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter, stare each other down and people get into it. That was a lot of fun. But the cherry on top was Chris Statlander winning by pinning Toni Storm, mind you. Look, I was 100% convinced coming into this that Toni Storm was not dropping the title. People are like, Tekla. It's like, we're not doing Tekla. Not yet. I'm not saying never. We're just doing it not yet. We're not doing it yet. We're just not doing it not yet. We're just not doing it not yet. That's a double negative. That means that we're doing it. So we're just not doing it yet. But we're not look, fuck. Getting carried away with my words here. The point being is that, I really didn't think Toni was going to drop the title. And it turns out she's dropping it to Chris Statlander with a great finish where she being Statlander used the seatbelt, which is Yuta's move. And, sort of got a pin out of nowhere, but a clean win. Clean as a sheet. No nonsense. Didn't clock her across the head with a belt beforehand, or didn't do a sneaky steel finish, which permeates these fucking matches now, right? Where one guy hits his finisher on the other guy, but then the heel runs in and tosses the other guy out of the ring and then secures the win for himself. Like, we didn't get that. We didn't get any of the tropes. We got something fresh. Something, and in fact, something that shouldn't be more of the norm instead of the typical usual nonsense that these matches get. And I'm not just blaming AEW. This is, up and down in pro wrestling. The champion got pinned. And how's that for a mind fuck right there? Because usually these matches are conceived for the champion not needing to be pinned to lose, right? That's why these matches are set up, which is, look, Hurt Syndicate, Bucks and Brodito from the it was the Young Bucks and Brodito from the Forbidden Door match, from the Forbidden Door show, right? Like, that was how we were able to Was it the Bucks or FTR? I can't even remember. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. But the point remains is that you still nonetheless have a situation that is built so that the Hurt Business can drop their titles. It wasn't the Bucks, it was FTR. It was bothering me, and I just ran it through my head, and it's because the Bucks were eliminated in the tournament. So look, I'm just glad I got it out of the way because it was bothering me. It was bothering me. Why can't I remember this? And I was like, there we go. Now I remembered it. There was the situation built so that the Hurt Business could drop the titles without getting pinned, right? So you could easily have done this here too. You could easily have had Chris Statlander, pin Tekla and pin Tekla and become new champion, right? But no, she went right ahead and pinned the champion. So there's no dispute here. Toni Storm can't come back on Dynamite on Wednesday and say, "You'll never beat me for the title, you bitch," or "you sow," or whatever it is that she'll decide to call her. She can't do that. She can't do that. All she can do is respect, and that's what she was doing at the end of the match too, where she was like, "Okay, you got me. You got me. There you go." I was so convinced that Toni was going to hang on to the belt. I was convinced she wasn't losing. Convinced. So this opens up some really interesting possibilities because now, arguably, the top face of your women's division, Toni Storm, is not champion. She's free to do whatever else. So this has the potential to be really, really, really exciting to see what they're going to do with this, unless she's taking time off. But I haven't heard anything. But nonetheless, it's still very, very exciting. It's still very exciting at that she's going to be free to do some other programs that will not involve the World Championship. Not right now. I like Chris Statlander. I've always really liked Chris Statlander. I went on a couple of tirades recently saying that she was probably the worst booked wrestler in all of AEW. I didn't understand what they were trying to do with her. Still I think things are starting to clarify now, is what I was trying to say. As far as her direction goes, I don't think she'll be joining the Death Riders anytime soon. I think it's pretty clear at this point that she's not going to do it. And we might actually lead to a match with Willow Nightingale, which I wouldn't hate. I think that would be tremendous because, I was going to talk about it earlier, but I think it's time for AEW to put their big boy pants on and get Willow out of these multi-person prelim matches and get her involved into some big time shit because the crowd wants it, because the people are into it, because the people want it. They want to cheer for Willow Nightingale. They want to. Everyone fucking loves Willow Nightingale. Okay, it's just it's up and down, all fandom. Everyone fucking loves Willow Nightingale. She's an easy layup. So enough's enough. She re-signed. She's good for a while. Let's do something interesting with her outside of standing in the back during conglomeration promos where Kyle O'Reilly is doing goofy faces. Back to Statlander. This is someone who has grown so much in confidence and presence, who has understood how to be a television wrestling talent. She has always been a good wrestler. She's struggled through injuries, which are probably still nagging and persistent. Don't get me wrong. You don't blow out your knees and be like, "Hey, let's do all the cool shit I used to do," like that. But she's adapted. Not only has she adapted, but I think she's a day oneer who has consistently stayed, on TV and in the present in the minds of fans, and has become a television wrestler, right? You can't just come from the indies and then be plopped on TV and you're like, hey, you understand all the details and the smaller intricacies that are involved in performing for live cameras on national television. And I think Statlander was lacking that at first, but she has really grown into the role. She has become much more solid on that front. And look, if they look, if they have plans for her moving forward, I can only applaud it. She's one of the best wrestlers they have on the women's side. She's extraordinary. You know, we're gonna talk about day oneers in a little bit. You know, it's like, yeah, but you got to support the day one. Yeah, but the day oneers, like when you have day oneers like Chris Statlander, why are you throwing your support behind day oneers who maybe are, you know, falling aside? Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. I am very excited to see where this goes because, of course, then it opens up a whole slew of new, fresh matches. It's good, and Statlander deserves to be booked properly. She deserves to have plans, which was my main complaint. I think she has everything in place now to try something else. So I'm excited about that. Plus, she's the first woman. Not women. She's not multiple people. She's the first woman in the history of AEW to hold both the TBS and the World Championship titles. So there's your historical footnote of the day. I realized, folks, that I forgot to talk about the post-match of the AEW Tag Team Championship ladder match, and I apologize. So let's do it here. The Young Bucks are left alone in the ring once the match is over, and then Jack Perry comes in through the crowd, flips off the Young Bucks, who said, "The fucker, where have you been?" And the Young Bucks overwhelm him. They attack him. Lights go out as they are about to deliver a BTE trigger. The lights go out, and we get a little video of Jack Perry unearthing a coffin and bringing the coffin to a dank medical facility and reanimating Luchasaurus, right? Which kind of connects with the other, you know, everyone is when they did the thing with Luchasaurus weeks ago. When they aired that video, there was a hand there of someone, you know, doing something to Luchasaurus, and it was like, oh, that's Jack Perry. And they were right. It was Jack Perry who brought him back to life. He wasn't dead, but all right, you know, I understand. It's symbolism. It's art. It's high art. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand. It's art. And so the lights come back on in the ring, and Luchasaurus is there, and he attacks the Bucks, and Jack Perry and the dinosaur hug, and he removes his belt. He being Luchasaurus removes his belt that says "Kill Switch," and he will now be renamed Luchasaurus. And they play the Tarzan boy, and people do the hand gestures and sing along. And it is 2019 all over again. Where is Marco Stunt? God damn it! Look, I don't have many thoughts on this. I think that I thought Jurassic Express was okay, that's not true. I do have a few thoughts. First of all, I'm nonplussed by a Jurassic Express reunion. They were always a very mid team. They weren't necessarily booked as being a serious, no, they weren't serious because the gimmick was that Luchasaurus is an actual dinosaur, but they were never booked like as contenders, as real threats, like not a tag team that you feel would pose any real threats anyway. So it's like, oh, okay, well, this is nice, I guess, for the fans and whatever. But then I realized, like, hey, you know what? Here's the thing, though. Here is something that I don't think happens very often in AEW because the company is very young. But I think it's notable that AEW is capable of, going that it's old enough now, I should say, to go back into its past and bring back one of its acts, just to dive back into what they used to be and pull out one of their older acts and for a bit of a nostalgia kind of feel good moment. It's like, hey, these two guys that we used to watch years ago, man, it's nice to see them back together. It makes me feel good type of situation, right? And we haven't really look. This is still a very young company. We're talking 6 years in at this point, or just about to, right? We're just on the cusp of, and we're capable of doing that. We're capable of going back and pulling out, something from the past and bringing it back and having people have like little nostalgia flashes. And it's like, that's kind of cool. Like, honestly, that's fun because it shows that the company is despite its young age, has a history and can delve into it and can pull something out like that. My last thought regarding this is that I think we all agree now at this point that the Jack Perry singles run was a bust. I don't think it ended up working out. That's what I see here. That's how I'm perceiving this situation, is that they tried their best. They tried their best with in the post CM Punk universe and all of that. And I think for a short while, there was enough heat being built behind it to make it interesting. But I think the fact is that ultimately Jack Perry underdelivers when it's time to be in the spotlight. I think both from on all levels of performance. I think he's a good little wrestler, but he's not a top guy wrestler. I think, I don't think he has he has the top guy blood in him. I think his promos are not very good. And even though he's cut a couple of them in the past that had some grit to them, it's like, all right, that's still not great. They shipped him off to New Japan for a while and you were like, oh, maybe something will sink in here. But then he was paired up with the dopes of House of Torture. So then, okay, all right. What are you going to do about that? This isn't exactly a learning excursion. So yeah, they tried really, really hard with Jack to get him over. They really did. And I think the shortcomings are not on the company. I think his creative was fine. I think his ideas were fine. I think they used, the real world situations that happened with CM Punk to his advantage. I think the only other thing that would have been better for him is to join the Death Riders. I think maybe that would have worked out better for him. Maybe. No way of knowing now. Like, you're not trying that out now. You're not doing that now. Not when the Death Riders have recruited Daniel Garcia, who is an overall much better prospect long term for the company than Jack Perry. Do I sound like I'm down on Jack Perry? Yeah, yes, I am. I've been down on Jack Perry for a bit. I don't know. Look, I'm never an advocate. Look, I don't think he doesn't have value. I don't think this is a guy that doesn't have value that you need to throw away, fire him. But this is a guy who, if he left the company, just saying, I'm not clamoring for his expulsion, his release from the company. Far from it. But if he did end up on the free agent market, I don't even know where. Even if he went to WWE, wouldn't do a goddamn thing. It wouldn't change a thing. It wouldn't change a goddamn thing. WWE has Ricky Starks right now. And the best that they can come up with him is have him slum around on NXT with, whoever, the other scumbags over there. And Ricky has the charisma and the promo skills to get himself over. Not calling Ricky a super worker by any chance, but by any admission. But, Jack doesn't have the promo skills. Like, where does he go? He's not going to go back to New Japan. It wouldn't be. My point is that it wouldn't be a big deal if Jack Perry left. Now, if you want to keep him into your revitalized tag team division, and have him do something with the Bucks and Luchasaurus and have a little fun with that. That'll be completely okay. We'll be able to revisit some old PWG style matches with the Bucks, and then we'll end up watching those matches and go, man, these matches are tremendous, and then have them move on. I don't know. I've got so very little emotional connection that it's hard for me to sit here and get excited, get hype to a degree. I'm just like, all right, it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, back on track now. We're going to go to the coffin match. There was a Mark Briscoe challenge that we should talk about, but we haven't talked about the Mark Briscoe match, so we'll connect those two dots a little later on. Let's talk, we'll do the coffin match. Jon Moxley defeated Darby Allin. A bit of a surprising result, if only, but then again, like this feud must continue, so not necessarily, we're not calling the for the end of this all. This was violent, gleefully violent, brawling through the crowd, ear biting. I love this spot where it's the thing, right? When Darby has Moxley as they're coming back from brawling in the audience, right? And he's biting at his ear, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here, right? They want to reproduce the ear spot, and they're doing it like right around the barricade. And Mox is like one leg in, one leg out, from ringside, and one leg in, ringside, and one leg out in the audience. And you can see like he's fishing in his jeans, the little change pocket, and he's fishing in there with his finger, trying to get his blade out, trying to get his gig out, right? And then commentary, and I'm sitting there going, oh shit, okay, like this is not a good angle to be doing it. That's what I'm thinking right now. And then commentary is like, oh, he's reaching for something in his pencil. I'm like, dudes, no, don't point it out. Don't do it. Don't. Why are they emphasizing this? This is wild. Anyway, Mox, of course, Mox, of course, gets extremely bloody, and they're just like beating the holy hell out of each other's bodies, particularly Darby's. Just some insane spots, right? We've got, well, of course, like it started with a coffin drop off an entranceway when they were brawling, and I'm like, we're like 2 minutes in. I'm like, okay, here we go. Darby's throwing himself everywhere. They do the bit, again early on, where Darby just spears himself into the coffin, spears him and John into a coffin. And the velocity on that was tremendous. That was such a cool visual. The impact and how everything just tumbled over, because Darby is insane with his topes. He's just nuts. I think Mox's fingers popped out of their joints at some point, because he's all twisted, and I don't know, maybe he was just putting it on, but it looked like his fingers were really fucking gnarled, and he's just bleeding, because then Darby had also hid like a fork in a turnbuckle, and I burst out laughing because he grabs the turnbuckle as John is like has him in a waist lock, I think, and Darby grabs the turnbuckle pad, and behind the turnbuckle pad was the fork, and he turns around and he starts stabbing him in the head. And I thought that was tremendous. And then the ear stuff, and John is just like he's a fucking mess. And then Danielson, who had promised to not get involved, but had whispered something to Darby, right? On the, I think it was on the preview. I said, oh, maybe he told him, I'll bring you a plastic bag. Well, goddamn, your boy saw it coming. And so Darby uses the plastic bag on Mox, which is still a fucking scary spot. To me, that's one of the scariest fucking things, mostly because I'm claustrophobic. So, anytime, your air supply gets cut off, and I'm not talking about the band, that is not good. So Pac returns as well. Pac is back. And I think the most disconcerting part of his return is that he was not in full gear. He was actually wearing pants and a shirt. Everyone's like, his hair's cut. You know what? I like the haircut. It'll freshen it up. I think, greasy, stringy, long hair, Pac is, it's fine. I like the shorter hair, but no, like Pac should, like I saw this and like Pac should never wear clothes. Pac should never wear clothes. Always in full gear. Well, when I say never wear clothes, never wear street clothes. You should always be in full gear. Always be in full gear. I don't know why. And it took me a couple of seconds where I'm like, oh, it's Pac. And I'm like, wait, why does this feel so off? Why am I feeling so weird about it? Then it's like, oh, because he's fully clothed. He's not in full gear. And Pac, he razors edges Darby Allin like over the top rope on top of a coffin on the floor, which was insane. And then he gets out a body bag and they stuff Darby into it, and he gets thrown in the coffin. The lid is shut, and Mox wins. I thought this was super fun. Jon Moxley, once again, Jon Moxley, top guy, Jon Moxley doing top guy shit. He is so good. He has been so fucking good since the creative aspects of AEW have left him and his group to just be a bunch of thugs. That it's not like we need to rebuild AEW from the ground up. We have this secret benefactor. No. Ever since the post Adam Copeland feud, or at least after the pay-per-view match, when they did the bat match, right? Well, not the bat match, but when Jon Moxley got the spike bat embedded into his back, everything has been terrific. Has been great. What am I talking about? More than terrific. He has been great. And he is back to the ace status of this company. Every week on TV, having great matches, elevating people, doing great stuff, working with the young guys. Yeah, he's getting wins, and he should. It's Jon Moxley, and a guy like Darby Allin should fucking climb and claw his way to Mox, to get a win. And maybe next time is the charm, because we're not done yet. We're not done with this feud. Darby is just able to he has this crowd connection with the audience where people naturally root for him because he's small, because he gets thrown around and he gets the piss beat out of him, and he's always like trying and clawing his way out of stuff. And he's fighting Mox. Mox was the biggest bully in AEW right now, and he's tremendous. He is on a fucking great run. Right, he's been on a great run. I'd say since March. And again, I had a rant about this on stream. I'm not going to relitigate that, but to think there were people, and you know who you are, who were pointing at Mox and saying, maybe it's time for you to hit the bricks. Go join Chris Jericho. Go back to WWE, which is insane that you've never read his book if you say that. Go back to WWE. You're not needed here. You're washed. Can you believe this fucking shit? People lost their AEW. Let me say that again. There is a swath of AEW fans who completely lost their minds from March to July earlier this year. That just had the wildest fucking takes. And it's just like completely bonkers takes. And I saw lots of the Jon Moxley should leave stuff, and I thought these people were nuts. And I am glad that Jon Moxley is continuing to prove that he is valuable. Not just valuable, but a cornerstone of this fucking company still to this day. We're gonna, when we talk about the history of AEW, everyone is always going to say, without fail, Chris Jericho coming in was a big deal because it gave the company an air of legitimacy and whatnot. The thing is, Chris Jericho had been away from WWE for a while, so it didn't necessarily feel like a big steal. It was a big get, but it wasn't like he had already been gone for a while. So it's just like, Wrestling legend Chris Jericho is here. Everyone knows who he is because of his days in WWE, so on and so forth. But the day Jon Moxley showed up fresh out of off of his New Japan tour, right? His G1, if I'm not mistaken. I might be getting the timelines mixed up, so let's not go down that route. But coming back from a tour of New Japan, after leaving the Fed, right? Tour of New Japan, and he shows up in AEW, his presence actually showed that, a guy who is still in his prime, who left WWE by his own volition, decided to come to this company, and he established that this was a viable second place for modern, for modern current wrestlers who are still in their prime, can leave the other place and come here to wrestle. And we can't forget how significant that message was as well. And that's Jon Moxley that carried that. And Jon Moxley also carried his vision of pro wrestling. The one that he could never be fulfilled at the other place, where, he came back after injury and was asked to wear a gas mask and was told to say that everyone smells, everyone is stinky, and that's why he wears a gas mask. That's the shit he didn't want to do. What he wanted to do was come to AEW and wrestle and fight. And his presence also helped legitimize AEW on that front. Made people understand that this was a viable second promotion to WWE. I'm going to be sticking up for Jon Moxley until he can't walk anymore, quite frankly. Like, if he keeps on these types of runs, it's phenomenal. What are we even doing? I will not entertain any other types of thoughts regarding Jon Moxley. I really won't. And I thought they were overblown over the late winter, spring, and into the summer. I thought everything was overblown. Like I said, isn't it funny? He drops the title and then suddenly no one thinks he has to leave anymore. Anyway, anyway. Later on in the evening after the match, Jon Moxley's with they ran an angle where Jon Moxley shoos his Death Riders away, where he says, "I want to have a word with the coffin here," because we're supposed to believe that Darby's dead or whatever. I don't know. He says, "I want to have a word with Darby," so he shoos them away. And Darby pops out of the coffin, and he gets the best out of Jon Moxley, and he has a weapon, and he sets Jon Moxley on fire in a body bag. Yeah, there you go. I mean, because, AEW loves the fire, and this feud must continue. Kazuchika Okada defeated Konosuke Takeshita and Mascara Dorada to retain the AEW Unified Championship. God, this ruled. This was so good. This was an extraordinary piece of work by everyone involved here. Oh, by the way, I gave Mox and Darby Allin. I missed a couple of star ratings, didn't I? The women's four-way I gave 4 stars to. 4 1/4 stars for Moxley versus Darby Allin. And Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita, Darby Allin. Konosuke Takeshita and Mascara Dorada, not exactly the same guy. I'm giving that 4 3/4 stars. I loved this match. I love this match. Now, one of the things that I was worried about on the preview was the amount of effort that Kazuchika Okada was going to put in here, because he works when he feels the match is warranted, right? Otherwise, it doesn't happen very often in AEW that you get full strength Okada, full effort Okada. Sometimes you'll get 30% Okada. You'll get 80% Okada. We were very close to 100% Okada here. Like, he was into this match and he worked and he hit the big spots and he was doing the pinpoint precise drop kicks and all that. He was fantastic. So he is into this feud that he's got going with Takeshita. You can feel he's into it, and the structure of this match, The story they were telling was so good, where it was like, hey, listen, we're here to fight each other, meaning Okada and Takeshita, and you know, the luchador, the little guy, you're just like, you know, you're in the way. So at first they're just like shoving him away, right? But Dorada just fought back, and this was truly his spotlight. This was a match in which Mascara Dorada got himself much more over with the AEW crowd, where everyone was, and he knew he had a spotlight on him. He understood what was going on here. So he wrestled a tremendous match. One of the best matches he's had all year, I would argue. And not only did he wrestle a great match, he wrestled it to the point that he was able to get this Toronto crowd on his side. This Toronto crowd, which had just been killed by the previous match. He was able to convert them to his side. A guy that, you know, they barely know. How many times has Mascara Dorada been on AEW television? Not that many. You know, he's not a regular star. But he comes out here and he is doing such fantastic work, hitting destroyers at 450 and doing that sweet, sweet double Rana. That was just completely awesome. And he's jumping onto the barricade to celebrate with the audience. Everyone is hot for him. Like, you know, I don't want to call this a star-making performance, but I will call it a breakthrough performance by Mascara Dorada. For those of us who watch Lucha Libre and CMLL, we already know how good this kid is. We already know how tremendous he is and how stupid young he is. We know all of this. But for your regular AEW audience, you're like, oh yeah, we know this guy. And maybe, you know, you hang out online and say, oh, I've seen gifs of this guy. Yeah, sure. But here he is stringing together a terrific match, which he was designed to lose. As I said, when I talked about it on the preview, he's not there for Takeshita to pin to win the Unified Championship, which is usually the psychology in this, where you have an obvious you have an obvious challenger to the champion, but you want to protect the champion, so you throw in a scrub as a third guy, where it's like, well, if this person loses, it's no big deal. But no, it was to protect Konosuke Takeshita. It wasn't to protect Okada. It was to protect Takeshita so that we can still have the pinfall between Okada and Takeshita somewhere down the line. A lot of speculation going around that it might be the Wrestle Kingdom main event, which will make a lot of people, a lot of New Japan fans really fucking upset. I don't think so. I think Tony's keeping that one for him because he's building it so well. He's building it so tremendously. This has been a feud that's been simmering for a while. You know, that you can go back for, you know, you can go back months in the past for the first time, you know, the first time that these two guys, you know, crossed paths, you know, just gave each other a dirty look. This has been extremely good. This face turn that they're doing with Takeshita is going to be an earned one. It's been put together brilliantly. Everything about this is excellent. And Dorada's looking really good in the process, in this match, because he's not part of the feud. But in this match, he looked phenomenal. And, you know, also proved to, again, I'm not aware of anyone's contractual situations, but if you wanted to put money on Mascara Dorada being one of the CMLL luchadors that has a double contract with AEW, I think that's a safe bet. I think you're making that money back. Dorada even does the moonsault into the standing moonsault gimmick. I mean, you know, a little homage to Andrade, I guess. Probably not, but still funny. And he's doing destroyers and 450s and code reds, and Okada and Takeshita. They're so good in this too, because Takeshita's being his usual like heavy-handed, big fists, big strikes. I mean, he type of guy. You know, that's his bread and butter offense, and Okada's, you know, standing up to him and you know, just being so strategic. That's what they were saying on commentary. He's so strategic and thinking. He's so good. He was so good in this match. He was into it. This is a feud that he's into. This is a feud in which he's giving his 100%. Takeshita just has some great things coming up. So keep your eyes focused on this one. He's got some big things coming up. And look, Dorada, I think he's entered the consciousness of AEW fans, good and proper. And look, hey, if the dual contract guys that we're featuring are on AEW TV are guys like Dorada and Hechicero, okay, I'm completely fine with that. Why not more? Bring in the Villain 03 guys. Bring in the Villain 03 kids. That would be tremendous. Bring in fucking Zandakan Jr. I swear to God, this guy, if we book him on American TV, he's getting himself over 100%. Anyway, I thought this match was excellent. I thought it was just short of a true match of the year. I thought everything was so good. I love the finish, which is kind of a steal, but not really. Where Takeshita does the burning fire gimmick, and then Okada just comes in and decks him. But he doesn't just take the pin. He gets Dorada back up and Rainmakers him for the win. And that's fantastic. I thought it was great. 4 3/4 stars. I think I already mentioned that multiple times. Great match. Not so great was the match before that. The AEW TBS Championship was defended, where Mercedes Moné successfully defended it against Riho. So there's a bit of a point of discussion on my Discord, regarding my thoughts about Riho on the preview that I did. I mentioned, I don't know about Riho. I don't know, am I out on her or not? And I was saying to myself, well, let's see how this match goes down on Saturday. And, and people come after me, saying, well, no, man, it's Riho and she needs to shake off the ring rust. She hasn't been wrestling and so on and so on. And I'm like, okay, sure, fine. What I saw in the lead up to this match wasn't tearing the house down, wasn't impressing me. I wasn't like, oh, okay. I like Riho. I think I like the idea of Riho, and I like the memes, and that's what I really appreciate about her. I don't know about her being a talent in 2025 AEW. Because look, this match was aggressively fine. I thought it was fine. Good little match. Nothing like I'm going to forget, that I'm going to remember. Not terrible, not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but nothing where I'm like, okay, now I see it. Sorry, I was wrong about Riho. I can't say that still. I wonder what her spot is in AEW. Because here's the thing, is she disappears for months and months and months. Is this what's going to happen next? Is she gonna disappear for another 8 months, only to be trotted back in 2026 for a challenger for Chris Statlander, former AEW World Champion, the first women's World Champion? And you're like, who cares? Because what I noticed in this match is that Riho lacks crowd connection. Now again, Toronto crowd, etc. But this is the match that lost them. This is the match that I feel where the crowd was lost. Beforehand, I thought the crowd was into it and where they were absolutely fine. But this match here, I was sort of shrugging and going, well, no one cares. And now is she going to disappear again for another few months? Again, no one is going to care when she comes back. If they do want to do something with Riho, well, they gotta do something with Riho. Because in the meantime, and here's my main thing. This is the thing, and I can understand that some people are just they're Riho fans and they just want to be invested in what she does, and I can appreciate that. But at this point in time in 2025, think about the top end of this women's division. In fact, think of most of the division. Think about all the women who are in that four-way. Think about the women who were in the there was a lot of great talent in the tailgate brawl match earlier on. Think about all of that roster and tell me, where does Riho fit in? And I don't see it. I don't see where she fits in. Like, honestly, if Riho comes back, because here's the thing that I'm always kind of thinking about. If Riho comes back and they start pushing her, whose spot is she taking? Because there's a limited number of spots. Now, you can argue Tony Khan needs to put more women's segments on TV and whatnot. Absolutely. Okay. Yes, absolutely. But she's still taking a spot nonetheless. There will still be a limited number of spots. So whose spot is she taking? Look, she's not taking Monet. She's not taking Tony Storm. She's not taking Willows or Statlanders. Is she taking Tekla's? Is she taking Aminata's? Is she taking Alex Windsor's? Look, think of Alex Windsor, who just joined the company 4 months ago? 3 months ago, tops? Like, officially? And she has already had a more significant impact. And she is much more of a compelling presence on AEW television than Riho is, who has the history, and she shows up and people go, yay, but then also, whose spot is she taking? Is she taking Julia Hart's? Is she taking Sky Blues? She's taking Jamie Hayter's? And then ask yourself, is that a good trade-off? And I would argue that in most of those cases, it is a downgrade. And I don't care how much reps she needs to get back in. She needs to get back to excuse me. I don't care how many reps she needs to get back into shape, ring shape, I mean. The work that is being done with all of the women I mentioned, and look, I didn't even mention Megan Bain on top of that. The work that's being done with all of these women to get them over, to push them forward, to make stars out of them, and in many cases that it's being extremely successful. All the work that's being put in does not justify one of them having a spot being given up for Riho, who seems to be on a diminishing returns type of environment. I don't know. And look, she's in the ring with one of the best wrestlers on the planet, Mercedes Moné, who I thought they went to a 3.25 star match. Now, in my opinion, again, this is all my opinion. If you are in the ring with Mercedes Moné, who has been on an extremely incredible strip of matches, if you are in the ring with her and the best you can squeeze out is a 3.25 star match, I don't think it falls on Mercedes. I don't think the problem is Mercedes Moné. I think you might be more of the problem than she is. Because Mercedes worked her fucking ass off in this match. I don't know if you noticed. She worked hard. Now, let's have this discussion in a few months. If Riho gets showcased more on television, if she's, if she gets these infamous reps in to get her back into ring shape and whatnot, and then we'll see. I'm not throwing her out. I'm not completely out on her yet, but I'm still close. If anything, this match just bought her some time, where I'm like, okay, well, this wasn't a complete disaster, but it sunk the crowd. It completely sunk the crowd. Again, like I said on the preview, I kind of wondered whether or not Tony Khan sort of lost faith in this match at some point. Maybe after he saw the tag team match with Alex Windsor, Emi Sakura, and Mercedes, where he was like, okay, because the push for this match became very, very low key. You know, it ended with a match against Robin Renegade on the 3rd hour of Dynamite and on the September to Remember. It ended with the enhancement match with Robin Renegade, you know, lost in the 3rd hour that, you know, everyone knew that the ratings would be going downhill, you know, that some people compared to a Rampage, right? Maybe AEW themselves sort of lost faith in how good this match could possibly be. Monet worked her ass off like she always does. She was very good here. She did everything in her power to make this match work and get Riho all of her spots and what she needed, but Riho didn't deliver on her end of the spectrum. That's just as simple as that. So there you go. Moving on. The GOA and Ricochet, what do they call themselves now? The Combine, the Companions. What do they call themselves? I didn't write it down. Shoot. Anyway, they defeated the Hurt Syndicate. The Demand. They call themselves the Demand. What is this? 2016 Evolve? What the fuck is this? I enjoyed this. I thought this was a good, solid match, well put together. But MVP. Look, I know there's a lot of discussion around whether or not the Hurt Business are doing good for themselves, are just looking out for themselves, or if they're really, you know, doing good for the company. And I've heard backstage some backstage stuff, and you know, I'm still very fearful about certain things. You know, the report that was put out that MVP hates Mike Bailey just turned out to be complete and total bunk. So, you know, it's if anything, look, if the rumors are indeed true, then okay, here you go. Here you go. The Hurt Business politic their way into doing their best to not look bad in losing to Ricochet and the GOA. Okay. And not allowing Bobby Lashley or Shelton Benjamin to be pinned. Okay. That's fair. But let's say we flip this around, but let's say they didn't politic their way or whatever. Well, at the very least, listen, they're not going out there and trying to prove anyone wrong. You know, that Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are not just in this for themselves, because they're letting their manager with, you know, who had stepped away from full-time competing because of his knee surgeries and whatnot. They're letting him do all of the work in this match and letting him take the pin, right? Which, nonetheless, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense though, folks. Like, from a pure storytelling point of view, who should be eating shit in this match? Who is the weak link in this match? It's MVP. He's not a full-time wrestler. He stepped away from active competition, like I said, because of his surgeries. So he should, like, the story makes sense. There's one guy who should be pinned. It is MVP. And Ricochet ended up doing it. And did it clean, by the way. I thought he was going to use MVP's cane and all this. None of that bullshit. None of that. And I thought that was, I think that's very telling. Like, clean as a sheet. Now, again, like, is this going to keep the detractors away? You know, from is this going to keep the detractors away from complaining about the Hurt Syndicate moving forward? No, absolutely not. No, we're still going down that way. But look, I thought this was a really strong match. I thought it was a good showcase of the GOA specifically, who I think are growing more and more on the AEW viewing audience. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Toa Liona, and I think he's growing into a spot here, which is fantastic. And I have I don't have many qualms with this match. In fact, I don't have any qualms with it. It was a solid match. That's all I really want. Solid matches. It's good. 3.5 stars. I really liked it. I really, really liked it. Ricochet wins with the Spirit Gun as Bishop Khan was holding what's his name, MVP. Oh, and there was this really fun sequence of spots on the floor where everyone's getting some shit in, and it's nice and brutal. I really like that, and then Shelton Benjamin is throwing German suplexes around. Like here's the other thing, is that this is kind of what you want out of the Hurt Business too. You want them to just go around and throw people around. Like their whole chant is "We hurt people," and that's kind of what you want. They're perceived as these two incredible tanks, but just go for it, right? Just push that story home. I don't know. I don't know. Look, if they are like these political masterminds backstage, I mean, wow, they're getting everything they want. Isn't that weird? Isn't that just unique? And everyone is falling to their adept political skills. They're smooth talking. Everyone's fallen for it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Mark Briscoe defeated. Oh, just before that, excuse me, we had a little pre-tape backstage where Jerry Lynn is trying to get the Acclaimed back together. So I'm assuming that this means that Jerry Lynn is trying to turn heel. MJF loses to Mark Briscoe. Why did I say it that way? Mark Briscoe defeats MJF in the tables and tax match. Goddamn, this rocked. This was just so much fun too. This was a lot of fun. And Briscoe, when they start the matchup, they have the tax like in buckets, and Briscoe he's just like, even before the bell rings, he's spreading the thumbtacks all over the rings. Like, nah, we're not just gonna pull this out whenever willy nilly. We're gonna go straight for it, kind of thing. We're doing this. Now, MJF comes out completely, dressed in white and whatnot, and also off of the mat, especially coming off one of the best matches you are going to see all year against Mystico at the anniversary show last Friday in CMLL. Trust me, it's one of the best matches you will see all year. I can guarantee it. But this is not the anniversary show review. That will be coming soon, though. If you're listening to the podcast right now, it's coming right up. But for everyone else, it'll be coming out real soon. So MJF has one of the best matches of the year, an incredible affair. On Friday, takes a plane to Toronto to wrestle the very next day, mid-afternoon. That's cutting it close, brother, but good for you. And has this tremendous bloody fight with Briscoe, which was phenomenal stuff. And what I really liked about the match was that you felt at first that Max was not going to take any bumps. That he was, because at first it's Mark who's just taking bumps, right? When he's driving his head, Max driving Briscoe's head into the tax and then body slamming him and whatnot. And you're like, this fucking MJF, But like any good heel babyface dynamic should, eventually the heel gets his comeuppance and Max starts getting tax driven into his back because Briscoe was on top of things. There's the tables that are involved, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't The tables, I mean, there's not table spots everywhere and all the time. There, except when Briscoe sort of goes on this rampage where he's driving Max through tables and doing the cactus elbow through the tables and whatnot. There is a little balance here. There was a little balance. Let's put it that way. And it was really good. It was so much fun. Such a solid performance by Mark Briscoe, who wins on top of that. I was convinced that Max was just going to move on and win the feud, but there you go. Mark Briscoe, who always loses matches, gets involved in this feud and works and works and works to finally, at the blow-off, getting the big win. Like, Mark Briscoe finally wins a big match, and I think everyone was excited about it. And essentially, this is what Max wanted to do, as you can tell. He wanted to go through these motions with Mark, wanted to give him some spotlight, working with the top heel of the company, one of the top guys of AEW, and lead to this big moment. And now we'll see what's happening, what goes on next moving forward for Mark Briscoe. It's very exciting. I'm very excited to see what they're going to move on to next. Is he going to be challenging for the world title? No, I don't think so. I don't think I don't think that's necessarily what they want to do. But if you want to keep him around the TNT title scene, especially since he has history with Kyle Fletcher, that makes a lot of sense to me. But this was just it was a good series of it was a good, brutal, smartly put together match. Well done. And MJF, just like, again, on top of his shit, just on top of everything. I don't know what to tell. The discourse has turned MJF into a bad wrestler. Like that's what it's done. Where you speak of MJF and it's like MJF is bad. Like you cannot have. It's very difficult sometimes to find nuance when it comes to MJF and his contributions to pro wrestling. And the facts are there. The facts are always there. Because every time it's time for him to step up and deliver, he steps up and he delivers and he's great. Every single time. He has an incredible match in Arena Mexico, flies over, does this great match here. Not as great as the CMLL match, the anniversary match show it's special, okay? It's a unique one, but he comes over and he has a great match nonetheless. But the thing is that next week, next Dynamite or whenever, when he shows up, he might cut a promo that's a little too long for some people's tastes, and then people are going to get mad all over, and people are going to get mad and say, "See, he still sucks." But when it matters, he's riding up there with the best to do it. And he says it, and it's true. He's a generational talent. He's still under 30 years old. People seem to enjoy condemning him and just throwing him out with the bathwater when he is a phenomenal professional wrestler. Phenomenal. That has all the tools. But the minute he cuts a promo that's a little too long, they're not going to allow him any grace. That's my point. This is the point that I'm trying to make. I finally found the word. They're not going to allow him any grace. Where it's the minute he cuts a promo that he doesn't like, that they don't like, it's going to be like, see, boo, awful, shit, go to WWE. All this shit is going to start up again. Not a lot of MJF detractors going around screaming at how bad his matches were. No, they're auspiciously silent, and they're not necessarily giving him the credit that he deserves either. They're oddly silent. But you just wait, next Dynamite, if he does a 10-minute promo, oh shit. And it's not even a question where it's like, well, it should have been shorter and better. No, they're going to come full force and say, MJF again sucks the air out of the room. He's terrible. He's awful. We've always told you he's terrible. They allow him no wiggle room, no grace. Because they haven't been talking about how great his promos have been either recently. They have not. They haven't been harping on, you know what, when MJF is focused and, has this angry vibe to him, he's really, really good. I didn't see like up and down social media people singing the praises of that great backstage promo that he had with Tony Khan and how cool it was and how different it felt. None of that. But you just wait till he hits the ring and you see everyone starting to, typing out groan on social media. You just wait till once we hit the end of the year and MJF versus Mystico is going to be one of the top rated matches. It's going to be an easy top 5, if not a top 3 across the board match from all of the outlets that you watch and listen for your pro wrestling stuff. You just wait. And then the answer will be like, well, Mystico carried. And I'm preempting this. Anyone saying, oh, well, it went up that, it's a match of the year because Mystico was able to do something great out of MJF or get something good out of MJF. Anyone who says that has not watched the match. They will be outing themselves as someone who did not watch the match. That's all I'm going to say. 4.25 stars, this match here. Eddie, let's connect that to Mark Briscoe's challenge, which he did later on in the evening. After his match, he's still bloodied and battered up, and he's got the conglomeration around him, and Roderick Strong and Kyle Fletcher is doing goofy faces as he's talking on the phone. No one does goofy faces like that when they talk on the phone. And Mark Briscoe sets up a challenge for the Don Callis family. He says, bring 3 of your guys, and I'm going to fight you with Kyle O'Reilly and a third mystery man that Kyle O'Reilly, is talking to on the phone. And they hint that it will be the return of Orange Cassidy. And I like that they're doing this, that they're bringing back their fan favorites and they're not doing surprises. Because AEW understands that they want people to tune in. They want people to know, hey, this is the return of Orange Cassidy, so let's tune in. Let's watch. Let's buy a ticket. Instead of just like surprises all the time and then, sort of going, why didn't you advertise this? Like the return of Eddie Kingston, for instance, which was advertised, which people were excited and looking forward to. He defeated Big Bill on his return. This was messy. This was a mess. I don't think this was a good match. I think that, look, I gave it 2.75 stars. I don't think this was good, which is a shame because I wanted Eddie to come back in full force, but there was just something off here, man. It was just not working. And I don't know if it's the rust. I don't know if it's lack of chemistry. I don't know if it's if this is Eddie post-surgery moving forward, but no, this wasn't it. And it didn't have like that Eddie Kingston fire, right? It didn't have that. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, which makes his matches compelling when he sort of, when you get that pure, unadulterated authenticity from Eddie, right? Yeah, wasn't great. Did have the Claudio Sucks Eggs t-shirt, call back to the Dusty Sucks Eggs tee, and the finish was awful. The finish was so bad. Like, the finish was a complete mess. Like, and from commentary too. I was like, I'm doing one of these. I'm going, no. The back fist misses Big Bill. I don't know, because I don't know if they were out of position. I don't know if Bill was supposed to be up on his feet, but Eddie was supposed to go at it a little blind. It seems like it was a complete mess. Like, it missed Bill. The audience saw that it missed. That's why there was no reaction. And Excalibur, I think it's Excalibur goes for the spinning back fist, misses. He missed. And then Eddie covers and he goes 1, 2, 3 because it was the finish. I'm like, no, dudes, come on. Y'all should be better than this. Eddie, Bill, like you legitimately should be. It's like, now we got to do this again. Like we got to try some. We got to tack on 30 seconds to this and just make the finish good because that was awful. And then Danielson's going, oh, maybe he glanced him off the dome, or whatever the fuck. I'm like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And it's so bad. It was all bad. Like it was already a bad finish, but Excalibur calling that he missed it. And then Danielson trying to cover for it. Like, God bless him. But it was just like, gasoline, more gasoline. I'm like, no, put it out. Don't add to it. Put it out. Stop. So not a rousing return for our boy Eddie. But am I happy he's back? Hell yeah. Because Eddie Kingston is a fun talent. He's a guy that everyone identifies with. I love Eddie Kingston. That's the thing, is that I love him. I really do. But this was not a good return. It's just it just wasn't, and the finish was so bad. And then the show opened up with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage defeating FTR. Show started with Adam Copeland marking out at a poster of Wendell Clark. Right? If you're not into pro hockey and the NHL, Wendell Clark is a legendary player for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and did anyway. He played for the Leafs for a while, and Wendell Clark turns out he's there, and Edge is like, oh, Wendell Clark is here, kind of thing. And the thing is that Wendell Clark, again, if you're not aware, he's a goon. Like he was a very successful enforcer type, a hockey player. Don't get me wrong, but he was a goon. So anyone going around saying he's my favorite he was my favorite hockey player, it's like, oh, okay, so you were in for it for the fights. It's like, oh, okay, you're one of those who used to buy Don Cherry's, greatest hockey fights tapes back in the day. All right, you're one of those. That's it. So I see what kind of hockey fan Adam Copeland is, although he was probably just, goofing off. And then we had, a Canadian sweetheart Bubbles from the Trailer Park Boys who was there, and in the show, Bubbles is a pro wrestling fan who has an alter ego called the Green Bastard. And I love the Trailer Park Boys on Trailer Park Boys. I've watched all Trailer Park Boys shows. I thought it was so good. It's still funny. Like, I still think it's really funny. But I don't know. I don't want to see Bubbles hanging out backstage and having conversations with Copeland. So, of course, like, this was done for Canada. Bubbles is, he's a Canadian national icon. It's what it is. It's fine. It's fine. But also, And Cage was no selling the whole thing. I think he said something. I don't remember. And then that led us to the match. And I got to tell you, this was not for me. This was exactly what I was talking about at the start of the review. A match where you just wait for stuff to happen. You're waiting for the interference to happen. You're waiting for things to happen because, it's just, it was a bang average match that was surrounded by, good intentions, good vibes for the crowd. The Toronto boys and the whole Canada shtick that they did before with Bubbles and Wendell Clark and then Beth Phoenix shows up out of nowhere. This woman who is not employed allegedly by AEW comes out to full music and Tron. She's got the whole thing. Like, oh, what the fuck is this? And Copeland hits a spear. Cope in this match he's booked like Brock Lesnar or Hulk Hogan. He's kicking out of everything. He's kicking out of shatter machines and power plexes And I'm like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Like, why are we doing this? It's Adam Copeland. Jesus Christ. Why is he kicking out of all of the all of FTR's finishes? Why is he doing this? Like, I don't understand. Like, clearly, I think he designed this match. I think he designed it because it calls to all of the WWE match structures that, you know, that I can't stand, that I'm done with, that include all sorts of nonsense in it and just distracts from any wrestling match that's going on. And that's exactly it. Like, there was at some point you're like, well, there's no point to all of this, right? There's just no point. So Copeland, you know, being able to kick out of everything was extremely strange. And then of course there was his tribute to John Cena, which I don't know what to tell you. If in any other circumstance than in the circumstance that AEW was in on September 20, 2025, okay? In any other fucking circumstance, I'd be like, that's cute. It's like, you know. But this thing happened on a day where WWE decided to counter-program this show and did it in a way that scared AEW so much that they decided to start the show earlier in the day rather than do it in the evening and really go head to head, and added John Cena and Brock Lesnar to this show to try and stick it to AEW. And we're going in here and saying, hey, John Cena, we're doing a John Cena tribute, which I would not have an issue with. I don't care. In this circumstance, look, I say it often. The lore of AEW is the lore of pro wrestling. So if Edge wants to give a little salute to one of his longtime rivals who is retiring this year and do a little tribute spot to him, I am completely fine with this. The issue that I have is on this day, on September 20, 2025, and having then the crowd chant Cena in the audience and getting one of the biggest pops of the night. That's preposterous. That I have no time for. That, it baffles me. This is something that Tony Khan should have put his foot down and say, look, Adam, I understand. It's cool. We'll do it at World's End. I got this great idea. Set up for you. We'll do it at World's End. Not today. Not necessarily a good idea. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Again, like this would not get me fired up if it wasn't for, it wouldn't get me fired up if it wasn't for the context. The context here is so important. I don't know why they decided to do that. I don't know why it was okayed. I can understand why Adam Copeland decided to do it, because that's exactly in his instincts to do. Like, this is a guy, and we saw it in this match. This is a guy who wrestled his entire career for Vince. He knows only one way how to do wrestling. Only one way. And it's Vince's way. And if this didn't scream WWE match to you, like, this is an Adam Copeland special here. If you were to tell me, oh yeah, these are all Adam's ideas and he practically put it all together, I'm like, sure, of course he did. Yup. I believe you 100%. Because again, Christian Cage, he's adapted. Christian Cage has been nothing but phenomenal in his entire AEW run. FTR right now are in the best, I think they're the best run of their AEW career. I think they've been tremendous. And they were not even able to shine in the way they usually do because they had to, accommodate for all this bullshit. Because this is the same tag team that for 2 weeks in a row on Collision, have legitimately great matches with Adam Priest and Tommy Billington. And you're like, these guys are fucking great. And now I see them here and I'm like, this is mid. FTR are better than this. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I disavowed Adam Copeland. I just went extremely hard on him. And look, this is what happens when you let this guy go unfettered. Like, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that he got everything through. That this is all by his design. Right down to his fucking wife kissing him. He gets handcuffed and she's like, kisses him and then goes after FTR. Says, I love you. As if she's going to fucking Vietnam. As if she's, she's in a fantasy movie and she's about to run straight into the dragon's mouth and slay it, but she's also gonna die in the process. It's like, woman, you're just about to go beat up a couple of dudes. And then she gets the stuffed pile driver. And I'm like, she's a pro wrestler. What are we doing? She's done worse. She's been through worse. She's wrestled Eve Torres. She's done worse. She's had worse happen to her. This did nothing for me. A mid-match with a lot of, stuff happening to, make you feel good about what? I don't even know. What is it supposed to make you feel good about? I don't know. I've got nothing for you. I've got nothing for you on this one here. But you see, the Toronto crowd was into it. So you see, to my point earlier, this is how the wrestling audience has been conditioned now. It's like they want the surprises, they want the shock. Beth Phoenix showing up. It's like, okay, sure. I get it. They had sowed the seeds of it because Stokely was making fun of her. And look, they've been teasing Beth showing up in AEW for years, it's like, okay, it's fine. It's all fine. It's just written Beth. It's like, am I watching Rick and Morty all of a sudden? It's like, it's a Beth. Because they can't use Beth Phoenix, right? They can't use Beth Phoenix. So it's like Beth Copeland. I don't know. That's the main show. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. No. The tailgate brawl, the Saturday tailgate brawl had, here, I'll run through the results quickly. Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs defeated the Workhorsemen. I thought that was, it wasn't the tag team match that I was hoping for, but it was a nice little crowd pleaser to open things off, even though really nothing of value happened. Gentleman's three type of situation. Daniel Garcia versus Katsuyori Shibata, I thought was good. Where Daniel Garcia defeated Shibata. I gave this 3.5 stars. I thought it was very, very good, very solid. And then we had surprise Hologram and Paragon versus the Frat House. So that was an enhancement match. I don't rate those. And the Tornado Tailgate Women's Brawl saw Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale defeat Megan Bain, Penelope Ford, and Julia Hart, and Sky Blue. And that was bad. It was not good. So there you have it. AEW All Out 2025. Reviewed in the can. Like I said, a good show with some extremely strong matches on it. And look, if you're looking for recommendations, I think the back half is very good. I think Hangman and Fletcher is excellent. I think the three-way match for the unified champion is excellent. But the coffin match was a blast. MJF and Mark Briscoe is a blast. The women's four-way for the world championship, also a blast. And if you're still into ladder matches, the tag team ladder match is definitely for you. So there you go. I don't think this is in the pantheon of great AEW pay-per-views, but it's not bad. Far from it. Very good pay-per-view, very entertaining, lots to love as opposed to the opposite. So, voila.